What's up, Motorhead rockers? Yeah. So I just want to do like a little research video because that's what I've been doing, right? If you've been following along with me building up the ZX4RR, you've seen where I put on the passenger seat replacement cowl cover so that way it makes the bike look more streamlined and is for a single rider, because who the fuck would you put on the back of a sport bike? I don't agree with that. Go get a Harley Davidson if you're gonna have someone on the back with you. give them some comfort, okay? And then I put on a tail tidy, so that way the license plate, looks like we got a traffic slowdown. That way the license plate and the turn signals and stuff, you know, they're not all the way out the fucking Kansas. They're actually tucked underneath the rear of the bike as they should be. So, you know, gotta love those crazy fucking policies that we put into place that make no fucking sense. And then the recent video that I released, which is adding a DNA air filter along with removing the ECU. Now, I sent the ECU off today to Two Wheel Dynoworks. I can't wait to get it back. I really trust those guys. I mean, really, a lot of the dyno tuners out there, the major dyno tuners, like More Mafia, V-Cycle, TST, and Two Wheel Dynoworks. You're not going to be disappointed with any of those people. I just prefer Two Wheel because I just like their shit. Okay, it's good numbers. They got the crunch. They tell you what you need, what you don't need, and they're straight to the point. Kind of like I am with those videos. So there you go. The thing that I had a question about is on the Two Wheel Dynoworks website was if you have an aftermarket exhaust system, you will need to delete your O2 sensor and plug up your AIS or air induction system for this to work. And I wasn't entirely sure or convinced as to why, because there's really not a whole lot of information. So I had two thought processes. One was, is this something that is going to mess with the functionality of the bike if I don't do this? Or is this simply legal things that they legally have to say, so that way if I do something or if I get caught and then it somehow backtracks to Two Wheel Dynoworks or whoever, that they can be like, hey, we told them what to do. We told them what to do. That's a 50-50, right? It's a good 50-50, whatever it is. So I tried to find this information. I looked on the ZX4RR forums. You get the general public, of course, talking to the general public, which is who the fuck knows, right? Right. Alright, so I was trying to find some professional and actual, like, video stuff. The only persons I found that really explained this shit was V-Cycle Nut. And I will reference some of his videos when I go to install, or possibly this video here, you'll find out, as to why there is any reason to disable the O2 sensor and the AIS or air induction system. So the O2 sensor, as explained by V-Cycle, is that it is a narrow band O2 sensor, which basically means that after the tuning of your ECU, pretty much that O2 sensor is fucking useless. It doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know how to calculate things because it was made from factory for the factory ECU and settings. Makes sense, right? Okay, this makes sense. So essentially, you're basically causing the system to have a fucking conniption fit because it doesn't know what it's supposed to do. And you're just going to damage the O2 sensor anyways, so it's best just to remove it. Good deal. Okay, that makes sense. That's logical, scientific, alright? And technical. Good shit. So, when I plan to reinstall this ECU into the ZX4RR, I will be removing the O2 sensor, plugging the hole, and then disconnecting the electric cable, and then which is with a rubber grommet, and it was just suggested that I tape it up, seal it up. However I feel necessary to tuck it away and leave it out of the way, and we're good to go. Now comes the part that was really intriguing because I didn't get or understand why it even fucking mattered. Okay, which is your air induction system and closing off the two ports that are underneath your air filter and everything like that. So what does the air induction system do? What does the AIS do? When the throttle is closed, well, you know what? I'm just going to have V-Cycle Nut explain to you. There you go.
To remove. So let's talk a little bit about the pair valve, what it does, why we block it off, and why it's one of the most misunderstood things in the motorcycle industry. So pair valve, AIS valve, and Yamaha speak, what it does is it takes fresh air from your airbox. And when the throttle is closed, it opens that valve. And then that valve, with the suction on the exhaust port, this is outside the combustion chamber, it affects nothing inside the combustion chamber. So the exhaust port has vacuum in it. It opens that valve. It pulls fresh air from your airbox into the exhaust port. It's normal to have unburnt fuel on closed throttle. You have a hot exhaust port, you have unburnt fuel, and you have fresh air. So it pops off, it explodes. So instead of injecting this unburnt raw fuel into the exhaust, out the exhaust into the air, we burn it off. Better for the emissions. This is why when you add a full exhaust and you block off your power valve, and then you call somebody and you say, hey, my bike's really rich, it smells like raw fuel. Well, this is why, because you've removed the system to burn that off. So the reason we block this off is so that I can get, when I'm tuning, I can get accurate air fuel numbers. Before I had just blocked it off in here so that, in the airbox, so that it couldn't pull air. And so now I want to remove the entire system. Like I said earlier, this is not something you want to do with the stock pipe. You want to keep that catalytic converter healthy. So you're going to leave this system in place. But if you put an aftermarket exhaust with no catalytic converter and you don't like popping on diesel, then you were going to put the block off plates on. They add zero performance. They don't smooth out the throttle. They don't give you more power. So don't waste your time. Don't spend your money. Don't do these on a bike with the stock pipe. You're not going to get popping on diesel that you really can hear anyway, because it goes through that catalytic converter, which is keeping healthy. So save yourself a couple bucks and the time. Don't put them on. You can see on this bike.
All right, so we learned what it does, which basically it's an emissions thing. It just makes sure that it burns off the wasted fuel, so you're not smelling a bunch of fucking premium fuel jetting out of your exhaust. It makes you compliant with, of course, being on the road, and it also creates the cool popping sounds that we all love when we decel from a bike. So why the fuck would you block it off? Two reasons for this, alright? One, the first reason why this is a thing and why they tell you that you need to do this is because of a legal standpoint, alright? Because this is an emissions thing, and obviously to why that system even exists is because, well, some states require you to pass certain emissions. And if you block that off, okay, your emissions is going to fail. but so then you're like, well, why would they tell you to block it off? Here's the second part. If you read on Two Wheel Dynaworks, and I would assume, okay, I'm safely assuming, that when you read on anybody's ECU flashing website, they tell you that this is for a racing setup only and is not compliant for road use, of which would be true. Because if you block those valves off, which then you can get accurate air to fuel ratio, that's the whole point why they do it. When they tune bikes for ECU flashing, they block those off to get an accurate air to fuel ratio throughout everything on the bike. And that's great for racing. But of course, it runs your system super rich and it doesn't burn off excess fuel, which is not great for the general public. So when you do take this out on the road, as you are not supposed to do, not supposed to do that, you don't want that blocked off. You do not want that blocked off. Top that off, as he also stated, that the small catalytic converter that is on our bikes, you're going to damage that over time by not having that burn off from the AIS. So essentially, the only reason why you'd ever block that off is if you actually had a full, not just a slip-on, a full exhaust system from header to back with no cat, okay, no catalytic converter attached O2 sensors removed and the AIS blocked because you plan to race the bike. That is it. There is no other reason to do it. So therefore, to help all of those out there that are like, what the fuck do I do with this thing? If you're taking it to the track, take your O2 sensor off, possibly this charcoal thing that of course I'll put up there for B-Cycle real quick.
Is the charcoal canister or the evac canister. And what this does, when it's set up stock, it has one of the vents runs from your fuel tank, runs down to the top of the charcoal canister, and then that goes through a valve, and then it goes out of the valve. You don't want to do this, that's fine. This turns on when you start the bike, causes very little issues. I'm not sure exactly how long it runs, but it clears out the evaporation. It's good for the emissions. And check where you live, because like in California, this would be completely illegal to remove. In other states, I'm not sure. And sometimes the only problems I've really seen with it is when if you overfill your tank and it spills into those overflow lines, it can clog this charcoal canister, and for a few starts, it'd be hard to start. But if that's not really a big deal and you're going to be careful when you're filling it, feel free to leave the charcoal canister on there.
Yeah, so that charcoal thing right there, you can take that off. And then, of course, blocking your AIS, that is absolutely necessary. 100%. Two-Wheel Dynaworks and all the rest are not lying to you when they say you need to block it off. Because they're assuming that you are going to be racing the bike as you should be. Okay? But for us road warriors out there and those who are just break the law, you simply don't have to really worry about dick shit, alright? You don't even really have to remove the O2 sensor because it's just going to be useless anyways, but I understand that you could possibly be damaging it and the system might fight. So you know what? I agree with that. Take the fucking O2 sensor out. It's useless at this point. But everything else, keep it in your bike. Don't unplug, don't block, because everyone else around you, including yourself, is just going to be much happier. You're not going to be smelling crazy rich exhaust fumes, which of course, you know, I'm sure the people behind you are going to really enjoy not smelling all that. And then on top of that, you get cooler noises because of that burn off when you decel the bike, which that's what we want. So there's no point in doing any of this other stuff. For the road people, the people that shouldn't have their bike on the road, that's for you. So hopefully I have finally cleared the air on why you do and what you do not, why people are telling you to go ahead and do this shit. It is a legal standpoint. It does not mess with the functionality of the bike, whether you do it or you don't do it. So it doesn't fucking matter what you do. It's just a legal thing, because the companies are assuming, I know I'm repeating myself, right? You can probably just end the fucking video right here, okay? All you're doing is, from the company standpoint, is they are fully understanding, they're not even assuming, they're understanding that you are making a race bike. So they, of course, are going to tell you how to race spec your bike, and that's the removal and blocking of those things. But for those that are going against the grain, you don't have to worry about that. And the only thing I agree with after knowing this research is to take the O2 sensor off. And that's it. So hopefully this video helps all of you that are having that issue or wondering what the fuck you should do with your bike, and you're getting conflicting interest on what you should do. Some people are telling you because it's legal, and the other people are telling you because who the fuck cares? And I'm the one that's telling you, do whatever the fuck you want, because it don't fucking matter. The only thing I was concerned about was making sure that it wasn't going to fuck up my bike if I didn't do all this stuff that people are like, oh yeah, you gotta do it. You just gotta do it. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything. So get your ECU flash, throw it in your fucking bike, and have a good goddamn day. A wonderful day, my lovely, beautiful motorheads. Yeah.